Well, hi there, everybody. I'm Jack Church, and this is my podcast, The Jack Church Show, or maybe you're watching via our YouTube channel, Traveling with Jack and Pam. If you hear a little noise in the background, it's probably the noise maybe of some sailboats, the empty sail, the mast, so to speak, swinging back and forth in the wind. Or you may hear the hum of an outboard motor, or some waves lapping at the dock. I'm out on a beautiful, beautiful day in Brookings, Oregon, along the Pacific Ocean, enjoying some beautiful sunshine and walking along the docks here. And I thought it would be a nice place to bring our show to you from. It's absolutely gorgeous. And what I want to talk about, though, is a new program that I discovered on the Apple TV app. It's called the Ted Lasso Show. Now, I'll be the first to admit, when I saw the title, Ted Lasso, I thought, okay, is this somebody I'm supposed to know? And it's a fictitious character. But I'm going to tell you, it has really, really been a joy to watch this program. And how it kind of even relates to my life, and maybe yours as well if you've experienced significant loss. Now here's the deal. The storyline is Ted Lasso is this guy who was a small college football coach in Kansas. And he was pretty successful, though. He did a great job. He had a video that went viral. And then overseas in England, this woman who owns a soccer team decided to hire him, even though he knew nothing about soccer. Ultimately, her plan is to get back at her husband, who she's now divorcing because he'd had extramarital affairs. But a way to get back to him is that she took over the soccer team that he owned, and she intends to drive it into the ground. So that's why she hires this guy, Ted Lasso, to come over. So Ted comes over to manage the soccer team. He's very unorthodox. He also brings his best friend and his assistant coach who coached with him in football. And you immediately, though, start to wonder where his family is. And that's where the show gets pretty deep at some point. Now let me tell you about Ted, though. I really admire Ted because he has this incredibly uplifting, positive outlook on everything. And of course, everybody finds that incredibly weird. How can somebody be up all the time? Well, Ted Lasso is. And you start to really love this character. He's somewhat infectious with everybody he is around. He's just a happy guy. And you watch him, and someone like myself, and maybe you, who've lost a husband, wife, child, job, whatever the loss is, you watch a program like that and you go, wow, I want to be happy like that all the time. But you know what we all find out? That's almost impossible. It's not impossible, though, to have a positive outlook, but it can be somewhat impossible to always be on a high. And that's where we start to learn a little bit about Ted. Because as I mentioned, or did I mention it, he comes over with just his assistant coach. He has a wife and a little boy, but they didn't make the trip over. And that's where the show gets really interesting and starts to really hit home for me. And maybe for you as well. Now, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know another little piece of the central part of the story, you may have to tune out. But it's really not going to spoil it that much. You'll still enjoy the show. But anyway, here goes. Finally, after a few weeks of being overseas and coaching the team, and he's always FaceTiming his wife and his little boy, she just makes his day when she says that her little boy are flying over for a visit. He is on cloud 9. He is so excited. He's also, though, helping the owner of the team, a beautiful woman, through her own bit of, I don't know if you'd call it grief, but I guess it could be, because she's divorcing her husband, who she loved, but he's out horsing around all the time, and of course, it just made her so angry. And so Ted is trying to soften her up a little bit, to try and get rid of some of that anger she has, which of course we can certainly understand. Well, so while Ted is always so busy helping everyone else, we then get to the point where Ted's going to need some help, because his wife and son indeed do fly over for a visit. And then his sweet wife, and she really is, you can tell she's a sweet person, and Ted's a sweet person. She tells him one day that, "I just wish I could love you like I used to." And that hits him like a ton of bricks. What's happened is she's fallen out of love with him. And that starts to hit me really hard, because I was so blessed for over 30 years. My bride Pam and I can honestly say we were as in love her last day on this earth as we were the first day we met. I'm not going to tell you we didn't have some little ups and downs here, but for the vast majority of the time it was fantastic. And then here's poor Ted. He thought it was all good, and then he's told it's not. And that's when, as they say, the onion is peeled back. And Ted actually breaks down. Ted is sad at this news. And then, though, in a very, very moving moment, he tells his wife, he says, "You know, it's time to let you go. I understand it's time to let you go." Boy, that hit me hard too. Because then I thought about my sweet Pam and how she went to heaven. And it was time to let her go. So hard. Some of you listening or watching, you know what I'm talking about. And so Ted, this guy who's been so up and so happy his entire life, is now hit with the reality that he's no longer a couple. It's just him. He had to let the love of his life go. And that's what many of us have had to do. Mine was through her death. Maybe yours was through divorce. I don't know. The point being, even the strongest hurt when we experience that type of loss. So what will Ted do next? Well, I haven't gotten that much further down the road, but I can tell you this. Just by watching his character and how he has navigated life, I'm going to bet that Ted's going to do his best to keep that fun, outgoing, positive outlook on life the best he can. And you know what? It may even become better, because now Ted has experienced what so many others have, and that's devastating loss. And he knows how much that hurt. And yes, he will miss her. And in some respects, when the one you love is still on this earth and you can't be near them because they just don't want to be married anymore, I've heard some say that's even worse than losing them to death. And I can kind of get that. Because in Pam's case, she didn't want to leave. I didn't want her to leave. But she had to. where someone going through divorce, they made a choice to leave you, and you're left behind to pick up the pieces. But if anything, let's take some advice from our new friend Ted Lasso. Let's give it a positive outlook. Let's look for the good things in life. And let's always remember too that it's not going to last forever. I mean, when I say that, yes, we'll always remember our loved one. We'll always feel that sense of loss. But that really deep, dark day when it actually happened, we don't have to relive that anymore. And with the passage of time, and I can honestly say this, it's been a year for me now, it does get a little better with each passing day. And that's why too, I'm going to work on that positive, outgoing spirit. And I'm going to find ways like this to try and share my experiences with you. Because that's the idea. We're on this little journey together, aren't we? We certainly are. And we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to get through it. So if you have a chance, check out my new friend Ted Lasso, okay? In the meantime, thanks for checking in. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Jack Church Show, my podcast, or the YouTube channel, Traveling with Jack and Pam. And if you would, share it with others who you think might enjoy it, and spread the word that, I think we got a pretty good little program here. It's a daily journey. I'm no expert. I'm just like you, trying to figure it all out. And together, maybe we can. Until the next time, have a great day, and of course, make it a better tomorrow.